When you stand in front of the mirror, what do you see? Is that the real you? Contest chair, imagine you're at the wheel of a huge truck. The road is empty. You're taking in the scenery, the greenery, bouncing along at 50, coming over the hill towards the crossroads. The lights change. You touch the brakes. Nothing happens. You press harder, and the massive wheels lock on the shiny road surface. The truck skates and skitters across the highway. You close your eyes and wait for the crash. I was so lucky that day. We came to a stop barely an inch from the barrier. No damage. But like Elvis, I was all shook up. Once I'd calmed down, I turned the truck around and completed my journey. Returned to centre, if you will. And on that pathway, shock turned to shame. Company policy required us to report near misses. 1 inch, that's near. As soon as I'd parked up my truck, Woos 724S, I went to see Stuart, the foreman. Stuart, what is it, son? Nothing. Have you ever made a mistake? Kept it quiet? Ever stayed quiet when you should have spoken? Ever stayed down when you should have been standing up? This was my first driving job. I'd spent every penny on a commercial driver's crash course. Who called it that? Within a few weeks, I'd started driving for national carriers. I had a license, I had a job, and now I had a dirty little secret. And my wife, Marion, she wouldn't let me forget. She wrote a funny poem about it. One day, heading homeward, he found his lorry. It turned itself round. But still, an annoying voice in my head was saying, you should have reported that. 2 weeks later, I saw something in the depot that hit me like a punch in the guts. The wreck of a truck. Windscreen shattered, frame bent and battered, and hanging by a single screw, the plate, Woos 724S. That truck. Stuart, who was driving 724? Are they okay? Big Mick. He said, some fright, but he'll live. I knew Mick, decent guy. What happened? Faulty brakes, they're saying. His wheels locked and he slammed into a wall. Shh. That's exactly what happened to me. Nearly. After my near collision, I felt ashamed. After Mick's real one, I felt guilty. I put the poor man's life in danger. Would you have spoken then? Not me. I said nothing. I chose to keep my head down and my dirty little secret. And later, I was full of remorse. I looked myself in the mirror. Is that the real you? I made a promise. In future, the real you will not cover up mistakes. And when the chips are down, the real you will stand up, whatever the cost. Life moved on. I joined a local food company, driving at first, but with prospects for promotion. The owner, Robert, had a fearsome reputation, and he was a hard taskmaster. But we got on. I got on. Quickly rose to a senior position in the company. Robert became a trusted friend as well as a boss. I was well paid. Good times. And then out of the blue, I was called on my promise. Our finance guy, Spreadsheet Mike, we called him, came to me for help. Robert, he wants me to doctor the accounts, make them better. What should I do? I didn't want to believe it, but there was no doubt. And that annoying voice in my head said, you made a promise. The chips are down. For Mick, for Mike, the real you needs to stand up now. It was the time to stand up. And I was sure my colleagues would stand with me. I called Robert out on his bad practices. But nobody else did. I lost my job and my friend. I still had a young family, but no work, no prospects, and absolutely no chance of a reference. When I stood up, I rocked the boat and I fell overboard. And for a time, I was so far underwater, I didn't know which way was up. My rescuer was the last person I expected. My moody teenage son, Ian. One night, I overheard him talking to Marion. Why has Dad lost his job anyway? She told the story far better than I ever could. And his response? I'm really proud of him. Those few words were the life raft that I needed to stay afloat. I'd still lost my job, but I'd found something else, the light in a teenage son's eyes. And I realized that when you stand up for something, you're better than you think. You may lose a job or a friend or something else, but the real you in the mirror is better than you think. The question is, next time the chips are down, will the real you stand up?